Hello everybody, welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video. Trying to hit 20k subscribers over here, so it would be much appreciated. I am reacting now to the Memphis Grizzlies versus Dallas Mavericks play-in game that ended up being a blowout pretty much the entire way through, although the Mavericks did make it at least somewhat interesting in the third quarter. Can't say I'm surprised by this result because Memphis this year has actually looked like a pretty good basketball team, all things considered, even with how weird their last month or so of the season was. There's at least clearly a lot of established talent with a lot of previous rapport with each other, a lot of team chemistry. Meanwhile, this Dallas Mavericks team is Anthony Davis plus a bunch of guys who signed up to play with Luka Doncic, who have played like 15 games with Anthony Davis, not even. So it's kind of a fucking nightmare, this team. I'm going to harp on the Mavericks issues a whole lot more in the post-game recap for this game, as well as the earlier game between the Heat and the Hawks, which was probably the best game of the entire play-in tournament. Anthony Davis, though, like, the thing about him, he had 40 points in this one. He shot the ball well enough, all things considered, but 29 field goal attempts is a lot, and he just has this issue where for him to be the foundation of your offense, you're going to have to be okay with him taking a shitload of touch shots like floaters, hook shots, jump shots, whether it's catch and shoot, whether it's threes, whether it's mid-range shots, whether it's out of the post, whether it's fading. Regardless, lots of touch shots from Anthony Davis, and he made probably like 8 of them in this game, but I'm willing to bet you almost all of his misses were of that variety. Jump shots, floaters, hook shots. Whenever he takes those, he is just okay enough at them, and it's not bad. So it's not a bad thing to have in his repertoire as like a second option. But if that is a foundational source of your offense in 2025, I just don't think it's going to work. So, yeah, he had 40 points this game, but they were pretty much drowning the whole way through, and at best, he was keeping their heads slightly more above water than they would otherwise be. Klay Thompson had a good performance once again, pretty pleasantly surprised by how well he played to close. Brandon Williams had a rough start initially, but ended up having 16 points and 7 assists in 22 minutes. So once again, just think the guy deserves more opportunity. I think it would have helped if he played this game more. PJ Washington was fucking awful in this game. 5 fouls, 4 turnovers, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. But on the other side of the ball with Memphis, they had a pretty damn good game. Their big 3 players all had a good one. Actually, damn, Josh shot the ball way, way worse than I thought he did. Yeah, dude, Jesus. Yeah, he went 7 for 24 from the field. He was good in the first half, at least, and that's when it fucking mattered because they were leading by nearly 20 at that point. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 24, 4 for 5 from outside, hit some impressive threes. Scottie Pippen Jr., for some reason, the scheme was to leave him open a lot of the times, and it did not work. He went 3 for 5 from outside. And Zach Edey, talk about, if you want to see what is illustrative of like how matchups matter so much in the NBA, look at Zach Edey in this game versus Zach Edey in that Golden State Warriors game. Now, Edey overall still managed to have more of a positive impact than not in that Warriors game because of a lot of the things that he does super well ending up mattering more and them doing a worse job of targeting him as the game went along. However, there were a lot of bad moments, especially in the first half, because of his slow-footedness against that Warriors small ball lineup. They were getting him in screen actions that he really couldn't keep up with. They were switching him onto Jimmy Butler, which was partially Memphis's scheme, but multiple times it got him into foul trouble with Jimmy's free throw ability, which he got 18 on that night. But against Dallas, who is a very traditional basketball team with the double bigs, Klay Thompson being basically just a spot shooter, Najee Marshall being a non-3-point threat, so you have 3 non-floor spacers on the floor. And hell, at this point, PJ Washington's been such a bad 3-point shooter, at least he had been in the play-in, that I'm going to go ahead and say he's a non-spacer too. The defense certainly didn't have much respect for him. So a very tight, bad, not very good, but old school type team with double bigs. There's not going to be a bunch of targeting in the pick and roll. There's not going to be mismatch hunting because, frankly, there aren't a lot of people who could beat Edey off of the dribble on this team. I'm not even sure who it was. I think maybe it was Dante Exum tried to beat him off of the dribble. And it's like, dude, if you want to give Dante Exum shots because Zach Edey's on him, you go right the fuck ahead. You go right ahead with that one. I think Max Christie maybe was the victim of that as well, trying to get by him. Yeah, but Zach Edey in this game, 15 points, 11 rebounds, 6 offensive rebounds, 2 blocks, 7 for 9 from the field, multiple dunks in this one. I think 1 or 2 putback dunks as well out of those offensive rebounds. Just excellent stuff. Also, quick decisions. His first bucket of the game, he caught the ball at a weird angle really quickly, and he put his shoulder to the defender and put it up on the other side of the rim, like really, really swiftly, which that has been his big issue, was just not going up quick enough. So that was to their benefit. He was excellent the whole way through. Desmond Bane was really good the whole way through as well. He got 9 assists in this one. 6 turnovers, a little high, but whatever, we'll let it slide. Santi Aldama was once again pretty good in his limited minutes. I guess he played 30 minutes. It's not very limited. But Marvin Bagley stood out to me quite a bit in this one. He did shoot 7 shots for 6 points, which is kind of a lot, but I don't know. He caught 2 different lobs. He got a offensive rebound, reverse layup. I liked what I saw from him out there. Also got a block in his 15 minutes. So yeah, Memphis, very good game. I kind of felt like they had it the whole way through, because actual basketball team versus Anthony Davis and a bunch of guys who did their best. And that's exactly what ended up coming to be. I think I pretty much predicted the play-in games across the board. I didn't predict some of them going into it, but the two ones that I did, I predicted these games, today's games, and I got both of them right. I thought the Heat would win. I thought the Grizzlies would win. 2 for 2 on that. But the question I want to ponder for the rest of this video, just for a couple of minutes, we're going to entertain the idea that possibly the Memphis Grizzlies could have something to do to the OKC Thunder in this round 1 matchup, because as I mentioned earlier, the Grizzlies did spend a portion of this year at least being on the fringes of the contender conversation. Now, I didn't feel as though they would actually be a contender without Ja Morant actually being the one making the decisions in the end. While he did shoot poorly in this game, I do think this game was indicative of how that can be a very good thing, and that the system and the team working as a team can still exist even within that context. I also like the more Zach Edey, even if there's going to be matchups where you can't get away with that to the extent that you can here. And I definitely think the Thunder are a team that are going to be able to exploit his weaknesses at points. But they were a good team. They have really good, talented players. They have a lot of experience playing together. And they also don't match up terribly. Like the double bigs that OKC wants to do with Chet and Hart, Zach Edey and Jaren can match up against that pretty well. Obviously, SGA and to some extent Jalen Williams would absolutely burn Edey on a switch, but so long as you do a decent enough job of avoiding that, I think you'd be fine. I definitely think OKC has a better bench. They have the best player in the series. You could argue that, I mean, they don't have the second best player in the series. I would give it to Jaren. Ja is kind of at a weird place to evaluate him right now, but he can be the second best player in the series. As of right now, I think Jaren's the best player on the Grizzlies, however, so he'd be the second best player in the series. Then I would give it to Ja, but then in terms of second options for OKC, I think second option, Jalen Williams is great. Chet Holmgren, that's a better third best player than, well, at least in terms of all-around ability than Desmond Bane, but Desmond Bane's offense is better. So I'm not actually sure about that one. The talent is definitely in OKC's favor as a whole, especially bench-wise. I also think the fit is better. The team's defense as a whole is better, where the Grizzlies are like pretty heavily determined by Jaren Jackson, Scottie Pippen Jr., and Jalen Wells, who did not play in this one. There's not a lot of great defenders on the team. Otherwise, Zach Edey can be. He has a lot of context in which he's a very strong defender. As long as he is able to patrol around the rim and he's not asked to step out too much, he can be a very impactful defender. But, of course, I'm going to say what you expect, which is that I do not think the Grizzlies will give OKC too many fits. I think that OKC's defense will be hell for Ja Morant, frankly. The amount of perimeter defenders that they're going to be able to throw at him, there's not an easy matchup there. They have like 4 different options that are all not ideal for Ja Morant. On top of that, Jaren Jackson's kind of wishy-washy, and there's a lot of length, and there's a lot of harassment and trying to get steals. And if there was ever a test for the Jaren Jackson double team question, it will be that series. If he can survive it without that being a concern anymore, then I think that concern is quelled for the rest of his career. But This will be it. This is the Thunderdome of not fucking up when you get double teamed. The Thunderdome, ironically. Didn't even do that on purpose. It would basically require a lot of your role players stepping up to extents that we cannot reasonably expect of them. Like Santi Aldama needs to be like a regular 15-point per game scorer off of the bench. Desmond Bane needs to be shooting lights out for that to work. Again, Zach Edey cannot be exploited too much. And even then, I just feel like I'm reaching here. I think the Memphis Grizzlies still have a championship core at their disposal here. But to put this together in the context in which this team is in now, having fired the coach so late in the year, there's just very little likelihood that they could put it all together now against the team that statistically has the largest margin of victory in the regular season that any team has ever had. This is statistically the most dominant regular season team ever, even if they don't have as many wins as the 74 Warriors, 74 win Warriors, that is. 73. Yep. You're sure right. It is 73. Whatever. My point being, the Thunder are really, 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 really fucking good. And the Grizzlies, unfortunately, while they have a lot of stuff going for them, they have a whole lot more than the Kings or the Mavericks would have. I think it's the difference between what would have been a sweep versus probably 5 games where 2.5 of them are competitive. Maybe 6. Memphis could maybe make this a 6-game series. I'd be shocked if it was 7. And I would have to reconsider everything that I know about this game if it was a Memphis series win. Just about everything. Just about it. I have staked way too much on the Thunder being this good to lose to the 8th seed, even if it's a good 8th seed. With health, if the Grizzlies beat the OKC Thunder with health, that would be ridiculous. Now, with that said, tier list. This game, I'm going to go C because the Grizzlies did get a lot of good highlights in this one. Ja did some fun stuff. So there were some moments. This is a forgettable game.